It's after the war. They say none of the people still have lunch. I know this is the last time. So just so I can keep the people awake. Let me once again, now in my capacity as NGO Bureau, start by thanking NGO Bureau, GIZ, and the EU for really being a part of this particular exercise and ensuring that for the second time we are being able to actually work here. It's a very great honor to give this keynote address this afternoon at this National CSO Convention under the theme, The Future of Civil Society in Uganda, the Law, the Politics, and Money. I was given a particular topic to focus on, and that is designing and enabling regulatory framework for civil society, balance and accountability, autonomy, and impact. So overall, all of us are aware that since morning, everyone here has appreciated the work of civil society. They are central in the development of this country because they are doing a lot of work that all of us appreciate. In the morning, it was clear that under the NDP4, they are fully recognized and appreciated. So it means that the debate of whether they complement the government or not is out of the discussion. So this afternoon, my focus is on designing and enabling regulatory framework. And that's what I was requested to focus on. So to appreciate the regulatory framework, we need to first start by giving a historical background. Because all of you are aware that before 1989, there was no specific law that was regulating the sector in this country. Until when Cabinet finally passed the NGO Registration Act. Before that, NGOs in this country and any other actor from the civil society mainly went under the Companies Act, Foreign and Transfer Corporation Act. So it's only from 1989 that there was a specific law mainly for the NGOs in this country. And that law was in place until 2006 when it was amended. And after the amendment, there was the process of putting in place a policy of the NGO sector in this country. And in October 2010, that policy was finally passed by Cabinet. And thereafter, the policy indicated that there was a need to further harmonize the policy of the Act. And that's what led to the NGO Act 2016, that now is referred to as Chapter 103. But of course, that Act also led to the development of the NGO Regulations 2017, and also other regulations, rules, and guidelines that currently the sector is using in the country. Last year, in 2024, you're all aware that there was an amendment to the Act that rationalized the NGO Bureau, and a lot has really been said about it since morning. So it is very clear that the NGO sector already has a very comprehensive regulatory framework. So the conversation right now is focusing on how we can design something that is far much better. And of course, all of you are aware that there's already an exercise ongoing. We have the regulatory impact assessment consultations. A number of people have been consulted around the country. Consultations are still going on, and that's an opportunity for everyone in this country to ensure that you're able to give your views and have at least a regulatory framework that you all feel you have full ownership for. So in terms of the ongoing exercise of the current regulatory review exercise, the roadmap that is being used, first we started by development of the regulatory impact assessment. We have a draft report. Secondly, we are having stakeholder consultations, whereby we are using that draft report to consult and collect more views from different stakeholders countrywide. Once we are done in that exercise, the third bit will be to incorporate those views and help us come up with a draft policy and also extract principles for either amendment or repeal of the current act. Then after that, the Minister for Internal Affairs will be able to proceed to cabinet with both the draft policy and the draft act and the principles. And if they are considered, the policy will be approved and will continue to Parliament so that all this is actually concluded. So I'm calling upon you that all of you please have interest in knowing what exactly is the area of focus. Now, there are some expected outcomes from that exercise that you need to know. The first one is that we want to focus on compliance with Recommendation 8 of the Financial Action Task Force. I hope everyone in this room knows what the Financial Action Task Force is. I hope you also know what the Eastern and Southern Anti-Money Group is, because that would be something which should be of interest to you. Under the Financial Action Task Force, there are 40 recommendations that countries globally should comply with. And when it comes to the NGO sector, Recommendation 8 is what should be of interest to you. But also there's an immediate outcome area, that is 9 and 10, that the sector should comply with. So some of the things we're doing in this particular review process is to ensure that our regulatory framework complies with that recommendation. But also the second outcome we are focusing on the enhanced relationship and productive synergy between the sector, the government, the private sector, and the development partners. We want a regulatory framework that brings together all the stakeholders to collaborate amongst themselves. The third one is to improve the coordination of the contributions of the sector. Right now, you're aware that the contribution of the sector is not appreciated to the level it's supposed to. In the morning, the EDMP was very clear that if you ask him for the contribution of the sector, he has no answer to give you. So that is what we want to also look at. But the fourth one is to have a very strong and efficient mechanism for monitoring and ensuring that the NGO sector is compliant. The fifth one is to have an enhanced integrity, accountability, and transparency within the NGO sector. So this particular exercise is going on, and I'm requesting all of you, please pick a lot of interest in it. Now, what I want to do this afternoon, I'm going to pick 6 key areas that we have already picked as we are moving around. And I want to focus on them because we're already picking things out there that should be of key interest to the sector. Other things are already in our draft report, and I request all of you who have the opportunity to look at it, please look at it and give your input. So, the first thing I want to focus on is that what this exercise is showing us is that when it comes to the formation of these organizations in Uganda, they are being done in a very haphazard way and not in a streamlined manner. Meaning anyone can wake up tomorrow, feel like opening up an NGO, either because they want to secure some funding, or else they feel they want to create jobs for themselves, or for any reason they'll just wake up, go and form an NGO. That is not the problem. The problem is how are they doing it? In most cases, you'll find there is only one person who actually has the vision. The rest of the people who are coming to be part of that organization don't even have a clue of what they're even getting themselves into. And as NGO Bureau, we have seen this over and over again, that so many people actually are forming organizations, but they don't have the appreciation of even why they are forming these organizations. I'll tell you that in 2019, when we reviewed and validated the NGOs in this country, out of the 14,207 NGOs that were registered in 2019, we ended up having only 2,000 organizations that were actually active operating out there. And I can tell you that from our analysis, much as funding contributed to the projects of the NGOs, a number of people simply abandoned their NGOs. Meaning that you start an NGO so well, hoping to either get funding or anything out of it. But at the end of the day, because you have not done your things well, you end up actually abandoning the NGOs. The same goes to dissolution. When people are closing NGOs, I'll tell you that it's mainly only the international NGOs that will have a data security NGO Bureau we are closing. Almost all the rest of the organizations just abandon them and you don't even know where to go. So what we are looking at is that can we have a more streamlined arrangement whereby people who are opening NGOs have a thorough appreciation of what they're getting themselves into. Because if they do not have that appreciation, what we are seeing happening now is what is going to happen. They're either going to end up abandoning these NGOs, or else it's just a matter of time they're going to end up running into trouble because they are struggling and they don't even know what exactly to make out of these NGOs. The second key thing that we picked out of this exercise is, of course, the inefficient processes for these organizations to constitute. A lot of the processes are manual, and that does not exclude the NGO Bureau. That the fact that these processes are manual, even the cost of compliance alone has become so high. Right now, as we talk, you see that almost all the regulators in this country are fully automated. It's only the NGO Bureau that is in the process, and we feel that that should be a little fast because you have the National Planning Authority. They are very clear that they need a system that actually can help this country collect a lot of information. So the fact that these processes are manual, the cost of compliance on the side of the sector, but also the cost of enforcement on the government side is extremely high. NGO bureaus to incur a lot of costs in so many things just because things which they could have done online, they are now using manual processes to actually help them. So we just hope that once these things are fully automated, then we can have this really embrace the whole automation arena. But also we need to focus on the technology and the digital transformation for not only the government side, but the entire sector as a whole. The future of this sector right now will really be greatly shaped if they all embrace technology. The digital tools can really help to revolutionize this particular sector, mainly in form of the outreach, the efficiency, and the engagements that they can have. Yet, of course, we are continuing to see barriers that are there. We are seeing there is still low connectivity, there is still digital illiteracy. You may assume that everyone understands these things from the sector, but I'll tell you that in 2019, when we used an online platform to conduct the verification and validation, we received, I think, over 20 petitions where NGOs were complaining that they don't have internet, they don't know how to actually use the system. So we may assume that this is something that's obvious and yet it's not obvious. So it means that we need a whole transformation in that particular sector. But also the budgetary constraints there, just as it has been indicated, is not also helping the sector much. But as we regulate the sector, we need to really prioritize a number of things when it comes to technology. The first one is that we need affordable digital options and adoption across the urban and the rural. At times we discuss these things and only focus on the urban. Yet actually our biggest victims are people who are in the rural areas. But also we need capacity building in the cyber security and data management. People coming on board digital is one thing, but also people to understand that the risks and threats that are out there when everything goes online. But also we need inclusive digital engagements that bridges the gap instead of widening it. We don't want a situation where everything goes online, then we realize that we've actually left a chunk of the sector behind. So we greatly feel that that digital transformation should be something that is intentional, not only by the government, but by all the stakeholders, but also it should be equitable and secure. So it's important that we need that whole digital transformation. The third issue which we have picked from this exercise is the inadequate capacity of the key actors when it comes to the NGO sector, and also the stakeholders. And of course, what we are trying to say is that when you go to an NGO, start with the people who are founding it, the founders. Do they even understand what it is to run an NGO? They may have the passion, but do they appreciate what they're getting themselves into? Then look at the kind of people they're putting on their boards. People just identifying friends, relatives, or anyone who can either understand a few decisions, and those are the people who end up on boards. Then look at the members who are put in the register of these organizations, who end up constituting the Jefferson, and end up looking at reports of this organization, and have to look at audited reports, and have to elect a new board. Look at the capacity of the members alone. So it means that if we do not have adequate capacity for the key actors when it comes to the sector, then we are going to have a very, very big problem. It means that we need a lot of training, and right now we are consulting what is the best point for this kind of training. Should we start this training right at the district level before even someone reaches the NGO Bureau? Or should the NGO Bureau conduct a training just the way our Ministry of Trade is doing for the circles? Before you are registered as a circle, you have to be first trained. Then you are given a clearance that so-and-so has been trained, now understands what they're getting themselves into. Then also those who are renewing, should we again train you? So that we are sure that even if you have new board members, we are sure that these people understand exactly what it is to be an NGO and also having the required things to do. So the fact that organizations end up with people who don't have the required knowledge, the required skills, that greatly affects the entire operations of these organizations at the end of the day. So the fourth thing that we have picked is, of course, the weak governance in operating an NGO. When we talk about the regulatory framework, everyone straight away is pointing the finger at the government. And yet, the meaning of the regulatory framework does not start with the government. It starts right with the NGO. Because before you even come to NGO Bureau, you already have your own internal governing document. And that's actually where the starting point is. But I'll tell you that carry out an assessment in this room, you'll be sure that close to 90% of the people don't even know what is in their own internal governing documents. I will tell you that I chair the Complex Management Committee. I invite people to talk to, but people are more interested in having an internal governing document that is acceptable to the NGO Bureau, and are not interested in the content. Meaning that at the point of starting, what they do is they hire a lawyer, or if not, they get a middleman, or if not, they get someone's old document, a precedent, they use, just change a few things, add in the objectives, and there you are. Now, at the end of the day, a number of organizations end up with internal governing documents that they don't even have a clue of what it is. So the issue is, if you cannot comply with their own internal governing document, how do we expect you to talk about the regulatory framework of the entire sector at the national level? So I think the first starting point is the internal governing document. The moment you start organizations, you bring on board people, you bring members, you bring board members, you bring new staff. Do people take time to build the capacity, to give them an orientation, for people to appreciate that if we're talking about an enabling environment, it starts right from internally before it even goes out there. But this is further worsening that most organizations don't pay attention to principles of corporate governance, in addition to the regulatory framework. And that also has caused a very big problem in the sector. people want to own NGOs. Some are started NGO and wants to do everything. I am the founder, I am the board chair, I am the executive director, I am the treasurer, and that is what is happening. I'm not saying to the people in this room, but it may be happening because we see it. At the end of the day, a number of people who are even put in those positions are just put there either just for the sake. And you find the original founders are still controlling each and everything. So much as we're talking about having an enabling regulatory framework, we cannot also ignore the issue of the principles of corporate governance. So we are recommending that we need to do everything to ensure that this is addressed. The fifth issue that we have picked as we are out there is the issue of the inadequate and the haphazard financing of the NGOs. It's something that already came up in the morning, that much as we're talking about the regulatory framework, we need to also talk about the funding. You cannot separate the two and think one goes without the other. All of you have already appreciated the current situation, that the sector in this country has a very good sustainability. They are almost fully, or at 98% dependent on donations. Not even donations from within the country, but donations coming from out of the country. Meaning that at the end of the day, if anything happens to those donations, if those taps close, then it means this organization will not be there. You have given hope to all your beneficiaries, and yet tomorrow, anything that happens there, you'll be struggling. Right now, from morning up to now, the message is clear. The whole funding arena is shrinking, and it's even getting worse. The funding situation has become so unpredictable. So many organizations are not even sure whether they're going to be having funding next year. But also, apart from the overall funding arena, either global, regional, or national, we also have a bigger problem within the organization, which I've already touched on, and that is the capacity. Do people have the knowledge and the skills when it comes to raising resources? Do they also have the required integrity and transparency and accountability in case those fundings finally come? We have seen so many organizations look for funding, but when the funding finally comes, the next opportunity for funding cannot come because they already have serious issues. So it's important that we need to address those capacity issues. But also there's a big challenge generally with the donations coming in, because the fact that the donors are few, it has also increased competition within the sector. The competition is so high that everyone is fighting for the little resources are there. But also the conditions that come with this funding are very stringent in that it also poses a very huge issue to the sector. But there are also so many unforeseen circumstances that are coming. All of you saw what COVID did. As we were still recovering from COVID, next we saw all the wars that are beginning now. Before we knew it, there were also issues like you said closing. Internally we saw DGF, and all this are contributing and making the situation worse and worse. So some of the recommendations that we are really pushing for is that organizations need to start paying attention to internal income generating activities. Right now, if you ask so many organizations, how many of their members even pay the mere membership and subscription fees? So many actually don't even pay attention to that now. So at the internal point, that should be the starting point. But also in addition to that, what is the caliber of the members that you're bringing to your organization? Who are the people you're putting on the register? Who are the people who you're putting on your board? These are people who should be having the capacity to put more resources in the organization. But what are we seeing happening? A number of the people who are coming as members on the board, the best they're doing is to take these organizations. A number of people on the boards and the members actually take so much from these organizations till these organizations actually don't even have the resources to actually execute the real activities that should be carried out. So it's important that we need to pay attention to the caliber of the members that we are putting in this organization. But of course, the third one that has been a conversation for a very long time is to also think of now opening a basket fund for the sector in this country. This has been a discussion for a long time. I remember in 2015, Cabinet was okay with that, but when it went on the floor of Parliament, there was a huge resistance, where so many actors in the sector actually lobbied Parliament. And the feeling was that government was going to use that money to actually control the sector. And that was actually put aside. But as we look at the regulatory framework, it's high time we started to rethink all these financial sustainability options that we have. So some of the financial sustainability things we need to really think right now. The first one is strengthening local philanthropy and domestic giving. Just I think a few months ago in this room, NGO Bureau was actually promoting that. And it looked like there was a lot of consensus in the room. But we shall find out from NGO Bureau how much has changed, whether the giving culture is going to improve. Because we need to see the giving culture coming out. We have the whole private sector, we have individuals who actually can give so much to the sector. We just hope that can also be achieved. But also, when the giving culture is there, it should be supported by favorable tax measures. Because it's going to be a waste of time when people are giving and still they are not appreciating it in terms of the taxes that are there. The other thing we need to look at is also forging partnerships with the private sector. The private sector, I think, is a very untapped area when it comes to the CSO sector in this country. So it's important that we need to harness corporate social responsibility and social investments, but also in addition to that, we need to explore innovative financing models that can help the sector have sustainable ways of raising funds. The reason why I'm really emphasizing this is that without strong financial foundations, the autonomy, and all the things we're talking about in this room will actually be compromised. So it's important that we pay attention to all this, otherwise the impact of this sector is going to be diminished. So I strongly request that please, let's pay attention to the funding arena, and we have to really take it care. The next thing that is key, and that is the sixth and the last one I wanted to focus on, is the poor compliance with all these requirements of issues to do with money laundering and terrorism financing. I've already indicated at the global level, you have the Financial Action Task Force that is coming up to put a lot of obligations. The good thing is that at the beginning of this year, the sector was removed from the list of accountable persons. I think that was something good, that it reduced the compliance level. But if you thoroughly analyze this, it does not necessarily remove the sector from the entire area. Much as you are no longer accountable persons, you don't have to report to Financial Intelligence Authority. It means that you need to start paying attention to what is happening to all these things at the global level. So, the solution lies in the constructive engagement, And the strong call I'm making today is that the civil society must remain principled, while government must guarantee civic space, trust building, transparency, and regular dialogues like this one are the anchors that will sustain civil society role in governance. And so the way forward, and some of the recommendations I want to put forward before I come to this talk, is one is that this particular convention gives us the platform to shape a shared and a common agenda for the future. Let us emerge from this gathering with commitments: one, to build consensus on reforms to the NGO regulatory framework, just as I've emphasized; two, to reinforce partnerships across civil society government, private sector, and development partners. 3, explore new financing models that strengthen sustainability. 4, harness technology for inclusivity and impact. 5th, safeguard civic space through principled and constructive engagement. Conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, let's recommit ourselves to a shared vision, a regulatory framework that empowers civil society, protects its autonomy, demands accountability, and ensures maximum impact in the lives of Ugandans. Together, let us ensure that the civil society remains not only resilient in the face of the challenges that they could be facing now, but also stronger and more united and more impactful in building a just, inclusive, and a prosperous land. Thank you so much for listening. For God,